Aloha! Today I'm going to run through all the different types of cards that the Te-Moana-Nui-A-Kiwa Embassy issue. So we might as well start with the baby card. So you'll notice that baby's card only lasts 5 years, whereas the Tamariki cards and the adult cards last 10 years. Baby cards are $25, so that works out to be $5 per year. And you'll notice down the bottom how it says Te-Moana-Nui-A-Kiwa, and that is because when baby gets a Te-Moana-Nui-A-Kiwa Sea Pass, they are in Te-Moana-Nui-A-Kiwa jurisdiction, and they are safe from New Zealand state interference. So yeah, we designed the baby cards basically to counter attack the growing abuses from state child services such as ORANGA Tamariki, where they were coming in and taking babies at birth from the young mums, which was horrible. So yeah, lots of babies now have these cards and baby certificates. And the importance of baby certificates is Te-Moana-Nui-A-Kiwa baby certificates is we only issue the certificates, but we don't abuse the baby's identity, whereas the New Zealand government actually trades the New Zealand birth certificates and does all sorts of things, and it's actually a contract that gets unsuspecting parents into trouble. So yeah, okay, so moving along, let's go to another. So Aloha My Hawaii is because I'll do a bit of a history about the flag. Okay, so well, most people probably already realize that the 1834 flag gifted by King William IV to the Tena Rangatira was an imperial gift to ensure that Māori would not have their property seized by the New South Wales Settlers Parliament and other rogue governance authorities in the 1800s that were abusing their abusing the Indigenous people. And they were basically, you know, seizing waka and upsetting the trade that Māori had enjoyed for many thousands of years, as our ancestors were skilled boat makers and were circumnavigating across the world and trading with all the different civilizations throughout history. And so this is a trading flag, a very powerful trading flag, and you'll notice that all trading starts here. It doesn't start in America, or doesn't start in Norway, it starts here, and this is the trading flag. So it comes with a lot of benefits. For example, when New Zealand can't trade, or when New Zealand goes into fake lockdown and all that COVID nonsense, we still have the ability to trade. We have a trade agreement, whereas New Zealand does not. They're effectively pirates, and they have a fake flag, and that's why they tried to hide the true flag from the Māori people, so that they could suppress them and continue with their stealing of the babies and stealing cars, and basically don't blink, because the New Zealand government will come and steal something, you know, which that kind of carry on needs to stop. So that's the baby. Oh yes, and the other important thing is my tupuna te hapuku from Ngāti Rangi Koianaki hapu in Te Hoki, Hastings. Now he signed the He Whakaputanga, and most people think that it was only people from Ngāpui who signed, but actually my tupuna signed too, and he signed on behalf of all of Ngāi Tahu and all of Ngāti Kahungunu. But not only that, when he had his ship, he would fly the flag and continue with his trade. But the jurisdiction, and the very well-known jurisdiction, was the entire Te-Moana-Nui-A-Kiwa. That was the jurisdiction of the Polynesian people. And we all subconsciously know this, although we somehow forget and think that we're in New Zealand. Whereas New Zealand is actually just a corporation and just a corporate mechanism designed to extract all of our God-given, you know, inherent, customary assets and resources and inheritance. So yeah, so this is the baby card, and you'll notice how it says Aloha Mai Hawaii, and that's because Māori were in Hawaii as well. So we cannot ignore our cousins over in Hawaii. You thought you had heaps of cousins here in New Zealand. Wow. You thought you had heaps of cousins here in Te-Ika-A-Maui. No, wait till you go overseas. We've got more in every island. Okay, so let's open up another one. Hawaiian music is so relaxing compared to our music. Like, seriously. Okay, so I'm going to do the Whakamingia or Ngā Hapu card. Okay, so you'll probably wonder why only the Māori have the Whakamingia or Ngā Hapu. And that is because in the 1835 He Whakaputanga that was autographed by our tupunas, the governing body at the time was the Whakamingia or Ngā Hapu, and only the tino rangatira from each hapu would go and collect and meet together in order to discuss matters of importance and, you know, trade, and they were meeting. And the Whakamingia is the gathering or the meeting of a spiritual element as well as a physical element, and it was very special, and only noble ones were able to attend. So no kupapa allowed, okay? So that's the reason why we put the Whakamingia or Ngā Hapu. So my hapu is Ngāti Rangi Koianaki and Te Hoki. And so when we make the cards, we don't govern over anyone else, okay? So we promote that each hapu puts their own hapu on there and nobody encroaches upon other hapu territories. And so that was the way that there should be governance, because at the moment we're having iwi that have pushed out a lot of the smaller hapu, and it's led to a whole lot of environmental and unethical disasters. And so iwi governance, umbrella governance, Crown Infrastructure Partners governance is not very good. We can look at history and we can identify that. So we promote hapu governance, whānau hapu governance, and that's why I put the Whakamingia o Ngā Hapu. Okay, so with the Whakamingia o Ngā Hapu, obviously the Whakamingia was sacred to Māori, so it's only Māori who get the Whakamingia o Ngā Hapu. We don't use iwi because iwi is means dead bones and hapu means life. And also iwi governance was a New Zealand government invention. It came around in the 1850s, and it was not a recognised or government entity. It was actually an invention, and it's effectively, iwi is effectively the straw man of hapu, because, you know, iwi means death and iwi means bones and hapu means life, so it's almost an offensive kind of way to be described. And when you actually learn about the Pakiha way, or the methods of that they use in the courts and the registries, and it's actually really sick and dark. So I don't ever want to relay that kind of kōrero in case it tarnishes like what our tamariki are learning, I'd rather just focus on all the beautiful, amazing stuff that we were gifted. And we were gifted diplomatic immunity. We are the mokopuna, and our tūpuna would have wanted us to be free, to have special privileges, and not to be imprisoned, not to be the highest rate of incarcerated native peoples in the world. Okay. Also, another fact is New Zealand has the highest amount of prisons in the world per capita, so the ratio, it's really unnecessary. And you know, so many people within government, you know, that advocate for Māori rights, but really nothing can be done until we step out of the New Zealand jurisdiction, and we are safe in Te-Moana-Nui-A-Kiwa jurisdiction. We're not safe in New Zealand anymore. Okay, what else can I point out? Just the same stuff, Te-Moana-Nui-A-Kiwa. Also here, you'll notice entitled to immunity, diplomatic privileges and immunities Act 1968. Now in 1968, the government at the time had a standing with the British monarch who promised to protect us. So the He Whakaputanga was like a contract, an imperial contract between King William IV and the Tino Rangatira, and he offered to always protect us. And so when there's an imperial royal promise, it must be honoured throughout the generations and going down. And so we, in 1968, the New Zealand government was still part of the British Crown. And so because we, as the receiving state, Wakaminia o ngā hapu was the receiving state at the time of both, you know, the He Whakaputanga and the treaty, it was the Wakaminia o ngā hapu was the receiving state. Now, as the receiving state members, we are entitled to that diplomatic immunities and privileges, whereas in 1984 to 1986, when the New Zealand government broke away from the British Crown, and they tried to take away the Constitution in an attempt to erode more of our rights, they effectively made themselves an unlawful entity, because no corporation can run a country. That would be like McDonald's running the country. And they can only run by contract and consent. So we recommend everyone exits the New Zealand government. We show you how to on our website. You know, don't vote anymore. Don't endorse this. Don't feed and enable the monster that's harming us. So we're a nation of islands called Te-Moana-Nui-A-Kiwa, and we have rights. We have rights to trade, rights to relax, rights to fish, and just get on with our lives without these parasitic entities that have kind of taken over. Also, yes, so what else is there? That's probably it. Let's move on to Pakiha cards. Okay, so here's an example of a Pakiha card. So if your ancestor, so Monica means name, so ship Monica is like the name of the ship. So say your ancestor came over on the ship of British Rose, you'd put ship of British Rose. Say they came over in 1877, you'd put that down, and then you'd put your ancestor's name. And this is a really awesome way, because it's sea pass and because it's maritime theme. It's kind of cool for Pakiha to honour their ancestral lineage coming in to Te-Ika-A-Maui and Te-Waka-A-Maui, because we're all here together now. We're all pretty much related to each other, so we might as well get along. Okay, so the adult cards last for 10 years, and because we don't want to keep changing the date that it expires, we've just made every card expire 10 years at the end. So you'll always probably get a little bit of an extra overlap with the time. So you get just slightly more than 10 years every time you get a card. Yeah, and cards are $50, so that's... Okay, so the Pakiha cards are really awesome because you've got lots of different options for the top banner. And if you don't know your ancestral lineage, maybe it's a good time to start learning, because whakapapa is really fascinating. I learned that I'm cousins with everyone in the island. On the islands of Te-Ika-A-Maui Te-Waka-A-Maui, we're all cousins, so that's weird. Okay, so let's go open. So the other most popular Pakiha card is hunting and fishing. And we made this card specifically to counter maneuver the encroaching Ministry of Fisheries and New Zealand Departments of Conservation and other ministerial departments that have really just done a horrible job at harming our environment and harming our seafood, and yeah, and taking people's boats off them. It's actually horrible. So there was an incident with somebody. He was getting some power, and he was a few power over, and he got bloody approached by the Ministry of Primary Industries, Ministry of Fisheries officer, and the guy kind of knew his rights, so he did the corridor, you know, but these bloody Ministry of Fishery officers were just over the top. They followed him home, they went to his parents' house, they took a vehicle off the parents of the diver, then they continued to hunt down where the grandparents lived and went and attempted to try and seize property from the grandparents' house. They think it's a joke. We did some paperwork up for the guy in court. It was amazing paperwork, and the collusion is there. You can tell that the collusion's there. They don't really want to acknowledge inherent customary rights that can never be extinguished, and our inherent customary rights to fresh water and clean food and fish and all of the things that we love and all of the things that makes us part of Te-Moana-Nui-A-Kiwa.
For a period of 2,000 years, Te-Moana-Nui-A-Kiwa belonged to us, the people of the Pacific. There was nobody else there. It was ours. And it was loved, respected, and treasured. Our ancestors traveled to every nook and cranny of the Te-Moana-Nui-A-Kiwa. They visited every country. Some never returned, some did, and when they did, they left instructions as to how to get there. No one else had the courage and the fortitude to venture out so far in search of lands as did our ancestors on the Te-Moana-Nui-A-Kiwa. There was nobody there.
So we made the hunting and fishing Kaitiaki card as a way to prevent New Zealand government agents from attaching their contracts to us when we dive and hunt for food. And we also made it as a counter maneuver against Agenda 2021 COVID-19 lockdowns where the supermarkets were closing. So as a survival insurance card, I made these ones. It was my idea to make these ones because, you know, we have a right to collect our kai, and no corporate department actually has any rights. So the clue is in the name, corpse is a dead body, corporate dead body entities, and the mechanism, the corporate mechanism, is purely designed to exploit every facet and every resource we have. And so basically, when the fishing quotas came in 1986, the children of Te-Ika-A-Maui Te-Waka-A-Maui, Wharekuri and Rakiora were effectively disinherited of their rights for survival and the basic rights to life. You know, you take away the fishing rights and you encroach these ridiculous quota systems, and you favour a bunch of quota owners and then disinherit, you know, massive 90% of the rest of the population. It's pretty corrupt. It's a bit like selling the seabed and foreshore. Like, those people who were involved in that, it's one of the most grotesque corporate greed like deals ever done, in my opinion. As you know, as a Polynesian, I just think it's disgusting how particular favoured ones in the Māori authorities thought it upon themselves to sign off on the seabed and foreshore. What were they thinking? You know, that allowed oil exploration, and with the oil exploration testing mechanisms, the sonar damage to the fish was vast. You know, the dolphins, the whales, the amount of whales that died and dolphins that died, the eardrums getting just blown open, the pain. And you know, Naina Mahuta was behind that. She was, when she was on Māori Affairs, when she was part of the Māori Affairs, she voted to sell the seabed and foreshore. And in my opinion, and I think as far as international peer judicial review goes in regards to the international Indigenous rights of, you know, the people of Te-Moana-Nui-A-Kiwa, she is not very well respected. And she happens to be our current Foreign Affairs Minister, and she doesn't acknowledge us as Te-Moana-Nui-A-Kiwa Embassy, even though we do an amazing job. We help Polynesians all up and down the country. And yeah, so it's time for people, I think, to participate in freedom, because if we do not, what is there for? If we do not do something about these erosions of rights now, then what will happen to our mokopuna? And we have a duty to do something. So there's a lot of selection to choose from, but in terms of survival, the hunting and fishing is the most popular among Pakiha, because Māori will just go out and get a kai, but Pakiha, like when the supermarkets do shut, you know, because it's looking that way, it's looking like Jacinda and the Agenda 21 agenda is going ahead at full steam. And that's the other thing. I read the Agenda 2021, and there's all throughout it. And Agenda 2021 New Zealand, look it up. It's not hard to read. And it's all the way through. It says if the Māori consent, then effectively Agenda 2021 will roll out. So it's really up to Māori to stop this. Except the problem that I've witnessed personally is when I went all around the country, you know, on the protests and hui, and went up to Waitangi on the Waitangi ceremony, like in February. All the Māori groups up there are promoting and going along with the COVID-19 like pantomime. Like, it was actually quite disturbing, because obviously big money payouts were just you know, massive funding was given to these different Māori groups, and they probably don't realise they're being used. They're being used to gain the consent of the Agenda 2021 rollout. So, you know, we can go up and down the country and protest all we want, but all we really have to do is go to Waitangi and stop them from signing the contractual commercial agreements. Yeah, it's fascinating, you know. And what bothers me is actually the with Agenda 2021 and the, you know, the vaccine trials, is that they're experimental vaccines. And why are our people not standing up against this? Why are most Māori health service providers, why are they going along with it? Well, you know, big money payouts is probably why. But anyway, there's your clue. If you want to stop Agenda 2021 from affecting this country, all you have to do is go to Waitangi and stop those guys from signing. There it is right there. Yep. Okay, so this is the Kaitiaki or Te Tangata. I might just change it to He Tangata. He Tangata. Herbal medicine card, and this has worked in court to get somebody off I think 4 or 5 pounds of weed. And he was my first Pakiha customer. Like I was in Hamilton and I get this Facebook message from a guy in Christchurch, and he looked like is like a redhead white guy. Got in trouble, got busted for growing weed. Really nice, just normal tradie kind of dude. And I helped him out because I wanted to know if if the flag and if this whole thing would work, A, with Pakiha, and B, in the South, or Te Waka-A-Maui, the South Island. Because I wasn't sure if it was a different jurisdiction down here, so I gave it a go, and yeah, it worked. I made one of these for him, and then we made a claim of right. We sent that off by track and trace to Andrew Costa, the police commissioner, and we track and traced a claim of right to, you know, grow marijuana, medicinal, you know, and that this was the permit. And we gave it to the police, and then we asked the police to provide evidence that they could prosecute the executor of the Pakiha dude's estate in court, and the judge just let him go. I think he must have sensed, like at that time when I was experimenting with the cards and pushing, I think the judges were just wanting to let these things slide in the hopes of that no one else would pay witness to what was happening in court. But now, because we've grown so vastly, and because we are like kind of, I'm a lot more confident in court, and I'm very verbal, and I like to do a bit of a wānanga in court. I think that I'm starting to annoy the establishment. So anyway, let's put, this music is so sleepy. Where is it? I'll just change it. Yeah, so Hawaii, Happy Hawaiian Music is what this is called. Hawaii was so beautiful, like you've got to wonder why they fled. So sleepy. Oh, here's another thing I thought of the other night. You know how in Hawaii you've got those palm trees, and they have them over in like Arabia or Mediterranean or Middle East or something. And they also have, you know, like how the Hawaiian girls do the hula dance and they do the nice waving motions. Well, kind of so do belly dancers. And if you put a belly dancer next to a Hawaiian dancer, they're like doing the same stuff. So that was kind of interesting. Okay, let's go back to the card. I think there's so what's particularly special about this card? So Kaitiaki means caretaker of the people, tangata's people, and herbal medicine. But you can just put rongoa there. But because I was down in Christchurch and a lot of people didn't know what rongoa was, I just like spelt it out. And so that actually worked in court. What else? There's another one that's kind of really cool. Oh, it's the Tamariki card. I'll find the Tamariki one. Yeah, so that's, hopefully that is a bit of a you know, thorough explanation about the cards. There's probably more information I forgot to talk about. There's always more. So many layers, you know. Oh yeah, I should talk about the back of the card too. Hang on, I'll talk about that. So this is the Tamariki card, and I think this card is particularly really cute because well, I just think it's cool that Tamariki have their own identity card, you know, and you know, students can have their own little school, like you can just even, you know, put the name of the school or put the name of your sports club, or if you're an enthusiast with, I don't know, science or whatever, like astrology, you can just kind of choose your label, you know. Or if you're a math student, you could put like Te-Moana-Nui-A-Kiwa Mathematics, I don't know. Yeah, so I kind of like that you can just change the top banner, and that these cards last for 10 years at $25. That works out to be $2.50 a year. So that's really, really cheap, really, really good bargain. Okay, so before we go, let's have a look at the back of the card, because there's a whole bunch of things I put on the back of the card, which was... Okay, so we've put on the back of the card that these cards are issued by the Te-Moana-Nui-A-Kiwa Embassy. So the embassy was started in 2004. So when the He Whakaputanga was found by our team members Kaumātua, and he was from Ngāti Kahu and Ngāti Okiwa from the far north up past Kaio, the tūpunas took about a few years, or a couple of years, the Kaumātuas took a couple of years to decipher the He Whakaputanga because it was so old. And they came across the original He Whakaputanga when they were doing the Waimahana land claim. And they travelled down from Waimahana, the Kaumātuas did, into a parliament building where there was a land lawyer that they had to meet with. And on that land lawyer's desk, under a glass pane, was the original He Whakaputanga document, and the Ngāti Okiwa and Ngāti Kahu, they knew what that was because their tūpuna had signed that, and so they were able to retrieve. Yeah, so it took the Kaumātua from Ngāti Okiwa and Ngāti Kahu a couple of years to properly translate the He Whakaputanga, and then it was taken to the United Nations in 2004 by Carla White, and she was able to get a copy of the He Whakaputanga stamped and recognised with the United Nations, so that it could never get hidden again. But for many years the true meaning of the flag was hidden. You know, massive attempts were made to hide the flag, and even with the flag debate about bringing in another flag, this flag here, the 1834 flag, was put forward as a candidate flag, and it was never received. It was purposely and intentionally rejected by, I think it was the Governor General at the time. So I think that it's really important if more people start trading with the flag and using the flag for its true purpose. One brave business owner, Dilip Rupa, from Rupa's Cafe in Wellington Road in Auckland. I think it's Wellington Road in Auckland. He is currently in a court case against the Crown because of the whole COVID-19 thing. Whereas, you know, if I was the Crown, I wouldn't invite Dilip Rupa to come and take me on. This guy is incredibly smart. Yeah, so I just kind of wish that more people were as brave as Dilip Rupa. He's an Indian dude, and he was a good friend of Kingi Tudor, and so he was very knowledgeable in things. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting because I look at Dilip Rupa and I look at Bill Turner and I look at like the people who trained me. So Colt's probably 60, maybe 70 years old, and the elders, and I think, man, you know, these guys were pretty smart, and yet still the government was able to hide from most of the population of our country about the flag, and the deception was massive deception, you know, premeditated deception, all designed to keep Māori in the dark about their true heritage, you know. And you've probably been told, oh, learn your whakapapa, learn your history, learn your rights. Well, it's a little bit hard when the people that we look up to, you know, who we think are the leaders, actually turn out to be just as either A, blind as what we are when we start learning, or B, a part of the intentional deception. Yeah, so that's kind of what was horrible when I started learning about the levels of corruption throughout the Māori authorities. But I'm glad I spoke out about it, because it kind of needed to be addressed, even though it's awkward and horrible and no one wants to address the kupapa situation, but it has to be addressed, you know. But anyway, so on the back of the card we have included that the card is issued by Te-Moana-Nui-A-Kiwa Embassy, so any problems, you guys call us and we will fight in court for the rights of the people. So I'm currently in so many court cases right now, just trying to uphold the mana of the card when we come across, you know, uneducated police people who summons us to court. And we've got a 24-hour helpline, so that's Peter's number there, and that's my number over here. So you guys can call us 24 hours a day if you've got any problems or you're getting picked on, because there's always a solution. So the main thing is not to panic, because people don't realize that if something happens they think it's the end of the world, but actually after they give you that summons to court, you have lots of opportunities in court to be able to voice your opinion. It's just that people generally don't know what to do, or they just freeze up. So my main goal is to get the courts and the police to recognise the rights of us who are using the cards. You know, that it's time that they learnt. The police, it really is time that the police learnt. Okay, so the secured party of this card is acting under tikanga. Okay, so that means that there is rules we need to abide. So it's just common decency, common law, kind of common decency. So we act at all times, we should uphold tikanga, and in accordance with the 1835 He Whakaputanga o Te Rangatiratanga o Nuterini, which is the document that our tino rangatiras signed and it's the document that promises that the British monarch will always look after us, the Māori people. So I think a lot of people might see the flag and not really know the importance of it, or that it is how significant the He Whakaputanga is, and I think it's really important for Pakiha and other people who don't know to learn about the He Whakaputanga. Actually read it and learn it and let it sink in, because without the He Whakaputanga we wouldn't have this flag. Without this flag we wouldn't have the promised diplomatic immunity. And so yeah, it'd be kind of cool if people actually learnt the Māori history side of things. Immune from quarantine and forced vaccinations and arrest in accordance to the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act 1990, Section 10 and 11. So we've included that so that for two reasons. First reason is that people can learn. We've put it there for a reason, so that you guys can make a effort to read both the He Whakaputanga and then read the Bill of Rights Act 1990, okay? So those are the rules that the government must abide by. So I think Section 10 is you can't be forced into like medical treatments, and then Section 11, you can't be, I think it's quarantine, forced into quarantine. But yeah, definitely learn those. Even go to the, you know, oh, this bloody thing. Even laminate the sections of the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act and keep them in your car, or take them to work, or keep them in your house. Like laminate those, print them out and laminate them, and give them to your school, so that the teachers and your employers and everyone who's trying to force you into, you know, anything to do with vaccines, they can see for themselves that it's against the law. Okay, so the identity card is issued in accordance to the Passports Act, which is just fairly standard. So it just means that any government from any country can issue identity cards. Okay, and that's in the New Zealand Act. So because we are Te-Moana-Nui-A-Kiwa and we are the Embassy of Te-Moana-Nui-A-Kiwa, we have every right to issue these identity cards and diplomatic cards. An embassy issues diplomatic identity cards. That's what an embassy does. And so we started the embassy. It was started in 2004, before I was even part of the team. And it was started, and notice was given to the Queen and the Governor General at the time, and it was activated on the 28th of October in 2004 at Te Marae. And then I came along and I was given the mandate to complete the embassy and officially open it, and then utilize, you know, like actually start using the embassy for what its purpose was, and that was to protect the people and to issue identity cards so that people could be out of the, you know, identify as being out of the New Zealand government, and also so that we could function as an authority that doesn't exploit but basically protects. And a government's main function is to exploit, whereas, and there's lots of other groups that want to be governments, but we don't want to govern over anyone else. We respect that each hapu, territory, and each family and each person can self-govern. We just make the cards so that the people can have identity cards, and it's actually really cool. What else have we got here? Let's open up a new one. Oh yeah, one more thing I've got to say about the acts. Now people say, why do you have so many New Zealand acts all over the show? Well, guess what? the acts were made for us. So when you have a government, or when you have like a Crown Law Office, and when you have lawmakers and legislative drafts people, they don't make the laws only for themselves. Those laws are for us to use. The problem is that, you know, police often, in the pursuit of financial gains, police often abuse the acts and then summons people to court, and then court is used as a money-making mechanism. And that's not really fair, because, you know, the statistics are there that Māori really do get a bad, like, rap. Like, we just, like, the statistics for Māori are just horrendous. I can't believe people didn't jump out of New Zealand earlier. It's just shit in New Zealand. Heaps more relaxing in Te-Moana-Nui-A-Kiwa. So anyway, those things are there for us, because when New Zealand was made, it was only allowed to operate as, you know, a government by our consent. Okay, so we are the beneficiaries, we are the receiving state, so all of those things are there for our protection as well. So become accustomed of reading New Zealand legislation, and start reading it and learning what you can use for yourself as well. What else do we have? I think that's probably it. There's a whole bunch of cards. Tamariki cards, adult cards. Oh yeah, I made this one. It's a resident card. And I made it because heaps of people who were visiting New Zealand, or they had official New Zealand residency, they were freaking out about like quarantine, and they were freaking out about, you know, vaccines, and they were just like actually panicking. And I was like, I don't really have jurisdiction to make you a card, because I only have jurisdiction to make cards within Te-Moana-Nui-A-Kiwa, which includes, you know, Samoa, Hawaii, Tonga, Rarotonga, Te-Ika-A-Maui Te-Waka-A-Maui. I don't have jurisdiction to make a card for somebody who lives in the UK. But by technicality, if you're a UK like born and you are residing in New Zealand and you have a contract with Immigration New Zealand as a resident, or, you know, by technicality, because jurisdictions overlap, you're technically a resident residing in Te-Moana-Nui-A-Kiwa. So I've decided to make 1 year resident cards, and they're $100 each, but the resident has to show proof of address, and then they've got to show their passport, and also this isn't like, I'm not issuing civilian citizenship and all that stuff. It's basically a fact, stating the fact that they are a resident in Te-Moana-Nui-A-Kiwa, and they want to come to us, the embassy, to seek assistance against the things that they're really panicked about. And so we're a friendly embassy, ambassadors are friendly, and so I've decided that I'm going to make resident cards that last 1 year for the purpose of this COVID thing, until this all blows over. Yeah, so if you're panicked and you think, oh, what am I going to do, then there you are. Yeah, so the people are really grateful when I make them, you know, because we're all kind of stuck here on this prison at the moment anyway. Yeah, I think that's probably enough. What else? Oh, there's a common law one. Let's have a look. Where's the common law one? So the common law people seem to be really cool. There's heaps of common law people, and I think common law is like a really good basic for everyone to learn. Okay, so if you haven't fallen asleep already, feel free to fall asleep now. This was the most probably drawn out, longest, sleepiest video I've ever done. Thank you, Hawaiian music. Anyway, so this is the common law card that we made for people who are in common law groups. And yeah, basically pretty much the same as the other cards, except living being under common law. And there's probably a load of other things I failed to cover today, but I'm hoping that what was discussed today is answering a lot of those questions. God, I'm sleepy. I'm going to have a cup of tea and go to sleep. Hawaiians must be so chilled out, seriously. Imagine if we had this music, like, at every police station and in every car. Like, all police in New Zealand should have this music playing in their vehicles. Things would be a lot different, okay? Anyway, Peter is currently in Hamilton and available for hui around the Waikato area, and I'm still in Christchurch and will probably stay down here for a little bit. Yeah,